as we get closer to the Pittsburgh game, Pittsburgh at the Steelers. I'm sorry, Pittsburgh at Philadelphia this weekend. Been hearing a lot of people still talking about the AJ, Jalen, Brandon Graham thing. That's not going anywhere. But it has been quite clear, listening to the national media and a lot of other people, how much people don't know about what's going on in Philadelphia. They get notes. They hear somebody else say, they're checking the Twitter and the Facebook and the Instagrams and all of that type of stuff. And basically they're just regurgitating the same stuff. Everybody's regurgitating the same stuff. Now, as somebody in the media, and yes, I'm just on YouTube, but I have to consider myself media now because I can put out breaking news just as fast as they can at ESPN and might get, a couple thousand clicks. You know what I mean? So we have to consider ourselves as content creators as part of the media. That's just the way it is. That's the way this landscape works now. But out of all the conversation I've been listening to this week on that subject of Jalen and AJ specifically, Tyrone at 97.5 has been cooking. To me, in my opinion, he has had the most down-to-earth, common sense conversations about this whole situation. Now, let me preface it by saying this. I don't agree with some of the stuff he has said in the past. But most of his conversation has been pretty logical, and I understand his perspective being in the media. And that's why I led with that, being in the media. Me being somebody that's been in the locker room and seen things like this before, my perspective is a little skewed because I've been on the other side of it. And I've watched things like that happen. I've watched the worst of it. And I've watched stuff where mountain out of a molehill. Now, I wouldn't say this is that. There was definitely some grains of truth, in my opinion, to what BG laid out. But for the most part, I do think it's been overblown just a little bit. If you go back and watch my initial video on A.J. Brown, I agreed with him. Jalen Hurts played horrible versus Carolina. Period. Two things can be true. We can be on a 9-game winning streak and your quarterback have a bad game. And I always use this reference because everybody wants to put Josh Allen at the forefront of the MVP talk. If that's your pick for MVP, so be it. But I always want to remind people, nobody had this type of energy when he went 9 for 30 when he lost to the Texans. So I say that to say everybody gets a turn. Everybody gets a turn to stink up the joint. It's bound to happen. Even the best of them, the best of the best, Hall of Famers have had some stinkers. That's part of the game. But what AJ said when he said passing, I knew exactly what he was talking about. I didn't think that he was trying to call out Jalen Hurts. I knew exactly what he was talking about. And then it just got verified when I went back and watched the tape. Jalen missed some wide open throws to A.J. Brown. It had nothing to do with targets. And again, this is my opinion. It didn't have nothing to do with targets or catches. And Dan Orlovsky went on ESPN this morning and basically co-signed what I had already said. Everybody's guarding AJ like he's a number one wide receiver. He's the guy you game plan on the offense. Now it's Saquon Barkley. But again, with our offense and all of the weapons that we have, you got to pick your poison. And what they're doing is picking A.J. Brown to shut down and saying, okay, Saquon Barkley, you got to beat us. You're not going to beat us over the top because it's easier to stop the run than it is to stop passing. But everybody's got their thoughts on the situation. Is there beef between AJ and Jalen? It's a rehash of what happened last year. And that's where I want to bring up this point. Tyrone said something that I never thought about. Never thought about. and maybe why the relationship between Sirianni and Jalen Hurts may have been a little rocky. And I never thought about this. Check out what he says.
You got to be reminded. I want to remind you that they fired the man's mentor after sabotaging him for a whole year. And people's answer was, he should talk to Nick Sirianni. Are you kidding me? I'd have put hands on Nick Sirianni if he fired my mentor after sabotaging him. Man, that was Nick Sirianni's offense last year. Brian Johnson took the heat all year. Then he threw him under the bus, and now he's supposed to go talk to Sirianni. Man, please, that was leadership. You want to know how I know it was leadership? Because Sirianni didn't get choked.
Never thought about it from that angle. But he's 100% right. 100% right. Everybody downplayed the relationship between Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts. And then when things were going south, the first thing you think of, well, maybe Brian Johnson wasn't up to the job. But Tyrone's 100% right. That was Sirianni's offense. Matter of fact, Sirianni said it during the year when he was trying to take the heat off of something. And when you look at how things were going and the way the plays were being called and stuff like that, yes, that was Sirianni's offense. Absolutely. So he's 100% correct. Tyrone is 100% correct. And that is just the angle that I never thought about. Never thought about. Why maybe Sirianni and Jalen Hurts not quite on the same page. Because you got somebody that is a family friend, it's like family, and you threw him under the bus. And your way wasn't working. It wasn't working. So, very interesting perspective from Tyrone. The other thing is now we got the Steelers coming to Philly this weekend. And all of a sudden, everybody's moving that goalpost again. Because when we played Baltimore, Baltimore was the ultimate test. Baltimore was the team that if you can beat Baltimore, then you can say you're a good team. They saying the same thing with the Steelers. This is a must-win game, and okay. It never changes. The expectations do not change. Doesn't matter who you play. The way our team is built, the way we have been playing, the Carolina game excluded. You take the Carolina game out, you take the Tampa Bay game out, and for the most part, that's the way the Eagles play ball. And I expect them to do the same exact thing to Pittsburgh. Is Pittsburgh a better team than Baltimore? They beat Baltimore, barely. We beat Carolina, barely. But I still think we're the better team right now. So it always comes down to the same stuff. Our defensive line has to win the line of scrimmage because defense wins championships. And I'm saying that as a running back. If they can't score, they can't win. I'm not worried about Jalen Hurts' passing ability. What I know is he had a bad game. Everybody's entitled to some bad games. Everybody gets a turn. Everybody. So now, like he said in the past, you got to flush it and come back a little bit better the next game. And that is my expectation. No, I don't expect to see A.J. Brown get 10 catches. But I do expect him to get anywhere between 5 to 8. And I do expect Saquon to get at least 20 carries. Because that's the way we win. Run the ball first, then you throw the ball. And what scares me is, with all of this hype, with all of this pressure, and all of the hoopla about Jalen not being a good enough passer, they're going to try to overcorrect. And every time they try to do that, the thing that gets us going gets pushed to the back. Saquon Barkley. I don't want to do that. Use the run to set up the pass. I don't care I don't care that Jalen Hurts doesn't throw for 300, 400 yards a game and everybody else is doing it. We still getting the dubs because I can go down the list and look at a ton of other teams where their quarterback is throwing the ball all over the field. 300-yard games, 400-yard games. Hell, even Jameis Winston had a 500-yard game, but they lost. Keep the L's. I want the dubs. So yes, Jalen Hurts has to be a little bit better, but you got to keep it in perspective. The running game is what's setting us off and setting us apart from everybody else in the NFL. And we cannot get away from it. Stick to what got you there. And we can, Jalen Hurts, I am convinced that Jalen Hurts can throw 200 yards a game all the way to the damn Super Bowl. Why is it all of a sudden unsustainable to be able to run the ball like that? I don't understand where that talk is coming from. Because everybody's used to people doing it a different way. And I say they haven't been able to stop us yet. They know good and damn well who's getting the ball, where he's running. They know Saquon is the keystone, and they still can't stop him. If I'm the Eagles, I don't change a damn thing.